Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is an unboxing and rambling of 6 Siege from Mythic Games. This is going to have a bit of a, well, we'll see where this one goes and what we talk about and how we get into it. But first of all, welcome to the channel. This is unboxing. We have my coffee, we have our knife, we are ready to dive into this, and as usual, this is an unboxing and rambling. We will be talking a little bit about 6 Siege, we'll be talking about any number of things that cross my mind, and we'll definitely be talking about Mythic Games, because I don't see how I can do this video and not do that. Also, thank you to Devin Norris, friend of the channel, from the Devin Talks Tabletop, as well as from Lucky Duck Now, for this particular set of 6 Siege, because I didn't pay anything extra for 6 Siege. Well, let's rewind. I'm getting way ahead of myself, because depending on who you are, you have either no context, some context, a little bit of context. Let's just assume you have no context while I nicely de-stack these things before they all fall over, because we have a lot of boxes to go through, and we'll see exactly what we do. We'll timestamp the various chapters, all those things, but let's start off with some context. 6 Siege is a game from Mythic Games. Mythic Games is a company that has done a variety of crowdfunding campaigns for quite some time. Mythic Games this past year kind of eventually got to a point where it seemed like they were having a lot of issues, and they were starting to ask for a lot of money on their additional campaigns to get the things you already paid for. This started with Darkest Dungeon, one of the big IPs that they brought in for the video game space, and then seemed to continue with 6 Siege, and it seems to be a bit of a mess with all their outstanding campaigns. Basically, it seems like they were not in a good financial state while continuing to request money for new crowdfunding campaigns. That's the short version of just getting you a little caught up on things. So, let's go back to Darkest Dungeon for a second, because Darkest Dungeon, they asked for a lot of money for people to get their games. Now, I never backed Darkest Dungeon, I didn't really have an interest in it. They did send it to me, full disclaimer and transparency and all that, but I didn't back it at the time. They sent it to me later. It was not a game that I was overly interested in. I was intrigued by it. The miniatures looked amazing, the art looked amazing, but the actual gameplay didn't pull me in quite as much, and so I didn't back it. They did send me a copy, I unboxed it, I played a few rounds of it, and I was like, it's good, but I have too many good games to spend time focusing on, well, you know, I have too many great games to spend time focusing on good games. Then, 6 Siege. 6 Siege is a delightful game. I had a chance to play this one during the prototype phase, and this game, oh my gosh, it's too big a box, I wasn't able to do it this way. This game I did love. This is an empty box I'm showing you right now, so I don't know exactly what it is I am getting into here, but this is the giant storage box to store all the various boxes in here. So, I don't know, it looks like we just have a bunch of, I think these are just to hold the miniatures. Let's open this up for a second and get through it all. Oh, there's plastic trays. Now, the fun part of plastic trays, yeah, they hold all the miniatures nicely. So you see over here, here's how you can be holding all the various miniatures from all the other small little boxes off to the side we'll be unboxing, but I don't think I'll be doing that on camera, because that's the kind of homework that is less fun to watch. So, let's go back to our story. 6 Siege. 6 Siege is a game I played during the prototype phase, and I really enjoyed 6 Siege. I thought it was an excellent game, like genuinely a very, very solid game. A little fiddly, had some issues. Then again, Mythic Games historically have had some fiddliness or some rule stuff or errata or things in their games, and 6 Siege was a very, very good game that I had a few small things I wish were a little better. But ultimately, really, really enjoyed it, was looking forward to the game, and then fast forward to the point when they said, hey, by the way, I know you've had issues with other games, but it's time to pay your 6 Siege ransom. I mean shipping notice, shipping fees. And so, they asked people to go ahead and pay for their shipping extras for 6 Siege. And the amount was not insignificant. It was a very large chunk of change, and so a lot of people had to make a decision as to, this is a lot of backstory and context, but we gotta get into this properly. A lot of people had to make a decision about whether they were willing to cough up hundreds of dollars to potentially see 6 Siege, or not cough up hundreds of dollars and lose the hundreds of dollars they had already paid. It's a hard situation, and I generally am a big fan of telling people to go with whichever situation doesn't work out in your head. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you're trying to evaluate the options, you have to look at the worst case scenario for each. Worst case scenario number one, you don't cough up the hundreds of dollars, and you see that they actually do deliver 6 Siege, and you're like, darn it, I already spent like $400. If I would have spent an additional $250, I would have gotten it. Worst case scenario one is you don't pay the money, and the game is delivered to those who paid the money. Worst case scenario two is you do pay the money, and you don't get the game. And I asked myself the question, what would I prefer? Would I prefer to pay the money and never get the... If I had to choose a worst case scenario, which one bothers me more? Which worst case scenario bothers me more? And the idea of paying more money for a game that I might never see, that bothered me more, and so ultimately I decided not to go ahead and spend anything else on 6 Siege. I had the same conversation with my friend Devin Norris, who used to be, well, Devin's been a friend of the channel for a long time. Devin's not friend of the channel, it sounds so informal. Devin's been one of my best friends for a very, very long time. Well, long time is relative. Devin's been one of my best friends for like 3 years. And and at one point he worked on the channel, he did stuff on the channel, but he's just a friend, he's a close friend, and he's having this conversation because he loved 6 Siege, and he was more torn about the idea of not paying the money and then watching other people get the game. That was the scenario that bothered him more, and so he went ahead and got this game, got the, spent the extra money, got the game, but then also was sent a content creator copy. I believe he was friendly with the designers, so he got a copy that way as well, which means Devin ended up with 2 copies. Now, Devin and I have a very friendly relationship, like I said already, for the past 3 years, one of my best friends, all those things. We got all these little pieces over here. We'll get into all these things later. We should look at the rule books. Let's look at the rules briefly. And so Devin is someone who I've sent a lot of free games his way. He sent a lot of free games my way. We have a very reciprocal, friendly relationship when it comes to games, well, and other things, but games in particular. And so to that end, I've sent him a lot of stuff, and he sent me 6 Siege because he knew that I didn't really expect to get a copy, unless Mythic may well have sent me a copy. It's possible. They sent me things in the past, but I'd also say that it seems like I'm not currently on the list of, getting things from them. It's a guess. I don't know for sure, but I so far have not received a copy from them other than this copy from Devin. So again, this is kind of a bit of a backstory of, 6 Siege, of Mythic Games, of Devin, my good friend, sending me a copy. And that's kind of where we are now, where we still haven't talked about the game at all, because there's a lot of backstory to get into. Here we have the rulebook to the game. The rulebook, now I put the prototype rulebook last time, so I don't know how, how different this looks, fairly different from the prototypes. But overall, I remember the game as not being overly complex while still being a little complicated. There were lots of interactions to be mindful of. Overwatch in particular, this whole concept of here, Overwatch, that was the most complicated thing to deal with. That was definitely not the most intuitive. I found that to be a little confusing. There's also a real-time element that actually, I think, it lent itself to the game fairly nicely. Lots of tech to deal with. Overall, the rules are lengthy-ish, but I don't remember them being particularly complicated. And over here, we have some mission descriptions over here. This looks like the missions you'll play through, which I don't remember how many I played through last time. There were a few we had in the prototype, but I don't remember what I played through from them. I think I played through everything I had, but it's been a while, so forgive me if I don't remember exactly. But that's going to be your rulebook situation. We had a little bit of a player there, and then we have a lot of characters to go through. So, we have some general backstory. We're going to get into more stuff, of course, throughout this video, but let's talk a bit about the game, because we should talk a little bit about the game. This is 6 Siege. This is a skirmish game with a real-time element, an optional real-time element. You do not have to engage with it at all, but it's based off of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, called 6 Siege for licensing reasons. Like, they have the license, but it couldn't be called Rainbow Six. It had to be called 6 Siege, but it's basically that IP, and they took that real-time, first-person shooter type of skirmish game, and they put it into a tactical skirmish game as opposed to a FPS. That's going to involve you having characters who all have their stats, their abilities, their weapon of choice, all these things, so I'm not going to punch now because I like to organize all that stuff off camera, and you're going to have a lot of characters with a lot of their differences, the things that make them unique, the abilities they bring to the table. This is mirroring the actual video game itself, where I highly, highly, highly recommend you watch Devin's unboxing himself. He did his own unboxing of this game, and he is knowledgeable on 6 Siege. Like, he knows what's up as far as these characters go, as far as the world goes, as far as the nuances, the intricacies, the character strengths, the meta. He clearly has played 6 Siege or Rainbow Six at some point in his life. It would be more equivalent to if I was doing like a unboxing of an Overwatch video game, where I actually know the intricacies, the back and forth, the various characters, well, other than a few of the new ones who I'm not fully caught up on, because I don't play video games quite as much as I used to, unless those video games are Factorio or currently Balatro, because I sadly got that bug. I've been playing a little too much Balatro. It's a problem, and Factorio got its teeth deep into me for like a full month, and I was just playing Factorio for a ton. But nowadays, I still dabble in things. I still play Overwatch. I play Overwatch with my kids. I play some Minecraft with my kids. I play some Palo with my kids. Do I play anything else with my kids? I don't know. I think those are the main active games I currently. Fall Guys. I play some Fall Guys with my kids, and then I play some games by myself, most particularly Balatro, at the moment at least. Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm also playing Horizon Zero Dawn, which, fun fact, was also made into a board game, so we're coming a little full circle on that one. I never finished Horizon Zero Dawn. I started it. I started many video games, including God of War, which is also being made into a board game. Once upon a time, I went through a God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Spider-Man, and went decently into all those campaigns and finished none of those. That's because I have no problem starting things. I apparently do have a problem finishing things. If you watch this channel long enough, you already understand that because of the various campaign games I start and don't finish. It's not that I don't want to. So there's always other things capturing my attention. Anyways, we got tokens over here, punch boards to go through, various wall elements, these shields and things, lots of fun little things going on in the game. But this basically going to be a tactical skirmish game. You're going to be building furniture, this is a fun little element. You're building 3D furniture, which I might have a furniture upgrade kit. I have a kind of a little bit of everything over here. I don't know exactly, I think it's an all-in pledge. But anyways, you have a tactical skirmish game with a real-time element where you're basically going to be planning either your attack or defense, depending on which side you're on, depending on the mission you're playing as. You're going to set all that stuff up and then have someone trying to breach the board. There's going to be a whole bunch of maps, 2 in the base game because you have a double-sided board, and then a whole bunch of variety of expansions. I don't think I can show you everything here because, frankly, the table space required is going to be a little bit messed up. Let's see what we can get. There we go. That's a little bit of a zoom out. This is not the map I played as, fun fact. When I played through the video game, the board game last time, I believe I must have played through as this map, if I'm not mistaken, just based on, yeah, there we go. This looks familiar. This is the map I must have played on. But you can have different maps to go through. You're going to set up your gear and equipment as far as how you're trying to set up your walls and your laser things and your shields and your drones and all these things. But both sides have gear and equipment. That's the fun part of this game. Both sides have gear and equipment to deal with. You have unique characters. You have characters that will have a sledgehammer smashing through a wall. You'll have characters that can send in various remote control whatevers to make sure the other people are in trouble. Each character has their own unique elements as far as what they bring to the table, plus there's general gear and things to go through. Now you're going to have, let's see if we'll do the miniatures last. The miniatures during the prototype phase, they were excellent miniatures. Excellent quality. Mythic Games, say what you want with them, they've generally had great miniatures. Even Darkest Dungeon, a game I don't have that much interest in, had incredible miniatures that made me want to have an interest in the game. Let's go ahead and zoom back in over here because we're going to need those shots for the miniatures when we get to those eventually. We have these over here. We have a variety of rings. These are going to be your little rings that show the character's bases, so you can slide these in and pick the particular character and put these on your characters. They have a little different divot than usual on those rings, probably to show some sort of number or something, or maybe indicate Overwatch. I don't remember, honestly. It's been some time. We have a whole lot of standees. That's going to be for, well, probably those various shield thingies that you're dealing with, but not a ton of things. We got some tokens, some more tokens, we got some whatever these orange things are, those things, a whole bunch of tokens in here that we're not heavily going to go into. This is going to be a faster than usual unboxing only because, well, I don't know if it's going to be faster. I don't know. I say that sometimes. This is one of those times where I might be wrong. This may well be a 40-minute long unboxing or an hour-and-a-half long unboxing. We do, after all, have a whole lot of things to get to. Some of it will involve talking about the game. So, let's go ahead and pull this guy out over here and see how the miniatures are, because again, prototype-wise, they had some excellent miniatures. This is actually true that this happened recently with Simon, with the Dead Keep. I unboxed that one. The miniature detailing was amazing. I was very impressed by it. But the problem is, prototypes tend to have, sometimes the miniatures are better in the final copy, sometimes they're worse. And usually if the miniatures are absolutely amazing in the prototype copy, it usually means it's a, resin or something else, and the final copy might be in the right range, but might be a drop worse. Plus, of course, the intent is to make the prototype look as good as possible, and the final copy you've already sold it. Not to talk about malicious intent or anything like that, just the nature of the game. Looking at these offhand, it looks like they did maintain the overall good miniature sculpting that they had from the original game. Now, this is where I will try to show you as many miniatures as possible. I don't guarantee I show you everything just because, again, time. And a lot of miniatures we have. We have a lot of miniatures to go through. But the sculpting overall, let's see if we can zoom in any further. Honestly, let's get a nice zoom in. There we go. Okay, so we got a nice zoom in over there. These are going to be some of the miniatures you're going to be going through. I'll just go through as many of these as possible, trying to show you them while talking about, well, everything else. So anyways, so where are we? We're talking about this game over here. Now, something Devin did in his unboxing, which I'm definitely going to do over here as well, is the practical reality is part of the reason there is so much context here is whenever I talk about any game that has any degree of history behind it, any degree of, not history, drama, any degree of drama behind the game, and it doesn't matter how casually it is. There have been times where I've put, let's say, Wild Ascent into the recommendations of a review, where I'm like, hey, if you like this game, I also recommend checking out Wild Ascent. And then I'll get comments from people who are upset that I did that because Lazy Squire Games is having an issue delivering their games, and that means that I'm promoting a game from a company that's not delivering their games, and they're outstanding. And I understand that approach. Now, sometimes I don't always give a ton of context, because sometimes I'm just doing a recommendation for a game, and the recommendation for a game is not a recommendation for a company. They are different things, and I can't always give all the context in the world. But there are other times where context is deserved. There are other times where it makes sense to give as much context as possible, and I don't want you thinking this is a promotional puff piece for 6 Siege the board game. It's not. It's an unboxing of a game that I've been looking forward to, although I do have conflicted mixed feelings about due to the nature of the way everything played out. As much as I like to think I'm very robotic and not emotional, I am affected by emotional things here and there. So, anyways, we have this game over here. We have these miniatures, which again, overall look great. I'm pretty sure this one was in the the copy I played, if I recall correctly, he looks familiar at the very least, because not all of these were. We had some roster, but not everything that we're seeing here today was in the prototype copy I received. I remember, if you watch, I actually did an unboxing for the prototype, if I recall correctly. I don't often do unboxings for prototypes. In this particular case, I chose to. For whatever reason, I chose to do an unboxing for the prototype. I remember the smell of the miniatures. They had a nice factory smell, very chemically. I appreciated that, and I commented on that in the video. And these don't have that, fortunately, I guess, because that's probably not a good for you smell, but it smelled great. I liked it. Anyways, going back to the situation at hand, so yeah, so I don't mind unboxing this game because it is a game I've been looking forward to. It does follow the classic range of the type of games I unbox. I typically unbox games that are large, lots of miniatures, production value, something to show you effectively. Because I will talk about whatever. I'll talk about the game, I'll talk about other things, but I want something to show you. Like recently I decided not to unbox 7 Citadel because I was like, what am I going to do? Show you a bunch of cards that any card I actually showed you would technically be a spoiler, so I can't technically even show you the thing I would arguably want to show you. So basically I'm just showing you cards, which if you watch my unboxings, I usually go past those cards pretty quickly. I don't really sit on the cards quite as much because they're frankly not as, well, I guess they're arguably interesting. I think it's a scale thing. I think the reason I don't show cards as much is because it's often a scale issue. Miniatures, I can show you a few miniatures and move on, but the amount of unique cards a game has is so much more than the amount of unique miniatures, which is why I'll usually have a handful of cards, scroll through a bunch of them, and just like kind of riffle through them, show you a few cards here and there, but not show you everything because I can't. My unboxings are already way too long, and they already take too much time. They're not the longest unboxings out there, but they are longer than they need to be, especially considering how little time I actually spend talking about the game. Now, I do always warn people, these are unboxing and ramblings. I happen to go wherever I happen to go. I'm in a mood tonight, by the way. I'm kind of just dancing all over the place, but I do warn people they go wherever they go. Sometimes I talk about the game a lot, sometimes a little bit, sometimes not at all. And inevitably, when I do that, I will get a bunch of people, not a bunch, there's usually one. There's usually one person in each of these videos who's like, hey dude, like you didn't talk about the game at all. And I'm like, yes, welcome to the first 30 seconds of the video where I warned you that might happen. I warned you this might not be a video for you. If you're here for detailed information about 6 Siege, well, I have a review. You can check that out. There's gameplays you can check out that I'm in. There's an unboxing from Devin that goes significantly more into the actual game itself. This is not that video. But you've been warned. The fact that you're still here is kind of on you after all. At the end of the day, I mean, it's a video. You chose to watch it. You left it on. You're not a captive audience. It's interesting, by the way. I've been in a variety of fields in my life, and I've been in different roles and positions in my life, but I have a pet peeve about letting people down. Don't ask me why. I don't know where it comes from. I'm sure there's some, trial to trauma of like letting my parents down in some way, or who knows what. There's gotta be something at play. Traumas come from somewhere. But I've always had a pet peeve about letting people down. I don't like letting people down. And I've had jobs or roles where sometimes I have to, and I don't like that. And I've always been eager to escape those opportunities. But it's a little different with YouTube. But before we get to YouTube, let's talk about past opportunities. Again, this is going to be all over the place today. But anyways, so for example, I remember that one of my jobs I had in the past was the main job I had before diving full-time into content creation. We got like various scenic things. I'll show you some of these. These are nice. These are like some fire tokens that you'll mush these together and get like a fire element on the board. We have the same thing for smoke. They are nice as far as things go, but these are actually in the prototype if I recall correctly. They actually have these. I'll go and show you one of these smoke thingies. And again, you mash these together. They're nice looking on the board. They're a little weird looking on camera over here. There we go. They work nicely on the board. Anyways, my last job before I went full-time in the board game space, I worked for an e-commerce agency, which basically meant we were a tech company and we helped people build their e-commerce platforms, but we did a lot of development work. So we were charging companies anywhere from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars to build and maintain their websites. Now, fun fact, when you have clients who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a website, they tend to be very upset when things aren't going smoothly. And the unfortunate reality of the development world, if you are in development, you know this. If you're not in development, you might still know this. And if you're in development and don't know this, you're very, very, very lucky. But the reality of the development world is that it's messy. It's hard. You're mostly delivering people bad news about why things aren't working the way they should be working. I often compare it to a car mechanic. There's a lot of people who don't understand what's wrong underneath the hood, and all they're hearing from you is a large price tag with lots of numbers, and you're unfortunately the person who's going to charge them to fix it, but then also halfway along the way, you're also going to tell them that the muffler's broken too, and this pipe's welded shut, and that $3,000 quote is now a $5,000 quote, and it's totally not your fault at all, but it's hard not to mentally associate those things together. And so development is messy, and development always had unhappy people involved with it. And I didn't like dealing with unhappy people because, despite it not being my fault, I often had to be the person. I was CEO of my last company, which meant I was frequently on calls with the unhappy people who had spent lots and lots of money with us and trying to explain to them why they should, well, I didn't explain to them why they shouldn't be unhappy, sometimes they should be unhappy, but trying to explain to them as much as possible the context and the nuance and talking to people who were just frustrated. I didn't like that. I didn't like talking to people who spent a lot of money and are frustrated because I get where they're coming from. I get their feelings. So that was not something fun, and it was a job that I was very happy to leave when I got full-time at the board game space and found the opportunity to do, well, things like talk to people on camera about things that aren't even board games and still consider that a job. Then there's Board Game Co. Not the YouTube channel Board Game Co. Rather, there's Board Game Co., where I bought and sold used board games for years. This is how I became into the YouTube space in general, if you don't know that story. The very short version is, in 2011, I got into the hobby. In 2013, 2014, I started shifting from trading as a personal aspect to trading as a more company profitable aspect, where I would trade games, buy and sell used games, and I did that at first to just grow my own collection, and then I realized I was doing it well, and did it to a point where I started growing a company instead. That was the path or journey that I went on there. And with that, that grew from 2014 all the way to 2022, which is when I stopped it, but that was a process of effectively dealing with used games, and it was always a little messy, but at least when I was doing it myself out of my own basement, I had a lot of the ability to do more quality control, while not making money out of it. But as it grew, it became very hard to maintain quality control as things grew. And so Board Game Co., the used game operation, which was the incentive to why I started a YouTube channel eventually, but we'll get back there soon enough, that was a operation that as it continued to grow, while most of our customers were very happy, and we had an incredible amount of repeat business, I would say that we still probably had maybe around 5% of our users would buy a game from us and have an issue. And not 5%. 5% is too high. 5% is way too high, but maybe it's 2% or 1% even. But the volume we were doing, it was still a very large number. There were a lot of people who would buy a game, get a used game, and have an issue. And while we were overall very good, we weren't the fastest or the best at solving issues. We usually did solve them, but it often required time and effort and patience and back and forth. And the speed at which you got an initial sale or trade was right away, but the speed at which we resolved issues was slower. That's the harsh reality of dealing with used games. We were trying to hunt down, copies of a game from somebody else. And the net result of that kind of conversation is that over the years, I had a decent amount of people who were unhappy. As much as people as much as people were happy with the company and enjoyed what we were doing, there were also a decent amount of people who were unhappy with the company, and they had legitimate reasons to be unhappy because they didn't know or care about our happy clients. They didn't know or care about the amount of people who realized that trading games is a hard business. There's a reason very few people are in the used game business, and they all they cared about is the thing they wanted. They didn't get the way they were hoping to get it, and so it was frustrating. And I don't like letting people down. See previous comments, but just I don't like letting people down, and I think their complaints were very reasonable. Where it's different in the YouTube space, and one of the reasons I like YouTube, is I don't like letting people down when I think you have a reasonable complaint. That's when I don't like letting you down. If you don't have a reasonable complaint, I don't really care. That's where it's tricky. Like, I have a very low degree of caring if I don't think you have a reasonable complaint. And I think that people who watch free YouTube videos and complain about the thing that they're not getting from the free YouTube video, I don't know if I care about those people. I care about the viewers, but I don't care about the people who have expectations that don't align with what's happening. And that doesn't mean I don't want feedback. I always want critical feedback, but there's a difference between critical feedback of, hey, by the way, just a heads up, I know you do these unboxing around links. Personally, that's not my type of content, so I don't watch those, just thought you should know. That's delightful. That's useful information. That's useful feedback. You know what's not useful information? Bro, you spent 22 minutes not even talking about the game. I don't know why people watch this. That's not useful. And I still get where it's coming from, but I just don't care that you're frustrated when you're watching a free YouTube video and it's what it is. Now granted, there's always people who are patrons or Ko-Fi members. There are people who support the channel financially. And don't get me wrong, even viewing a video, sharing, liking, commenting, even that comment itself, those are all things that do support the channel. But there's still a degree of just context to whether you are purchasing something that you have a reasonable complaint about being let down or not. So for example, my Patreon community, I always feel bad about letting them down. To this day, like streaming on Tuesdays, we used to stream on Tuesdays on the channel. I still try to stream. I don't know if it'll stay Tuesdays. I do a live stream on Thursday. That's pretty consistent-ish. But the streams throughout the week, the other stream, the extra gaming stream, that's not something I'm consistent about. And I always feel bad with that because it's more, and it's not even a Patreon community, it's just the Discord community. We have a very, very passionate Discord community of just a bunch of good people, and I feel bad about letting them down. Nothing to do with money or not, because again, I don't even know how many of them are our patrons, but just because that's like actual letting good people, friends who value spending time with me, letting them down, that's a harder conversation. But the person who comments on a video expecting something else, and those comments, you know that they're almost always from people who didn't pay a cent, didn't contribute anything, never were a patron or Ko-Fi member. Those people who are the most entitled are usually, well, the most entitled. They're not usually people who contribute. So this is all a tangent. This whole entire backstory was a bit of a tangent. Oh, just to complete the backstory, in 2019, in an effort to promote Board Game Co., I started a YouTube channel. Well, actually started on Instagram first, and the Instagram I wasn't that into, so I did it for a few months and just didn't care enough. And then late 2019, I started a YouTube channel, and then that is kind of where I decided that I liked talking about board games. I didn't care about the part where I was promoting Board Game Co., I just liked talking about board games. And then fast forward 2 years, and bit by bit, I started to realize that this was where my passion lay, and this is what I wanted to do. And dear Lord, we still have so many boxes to go through. This is going to be a video. But anyways, back to the game itself, back to the situation. So, Mythic Games. What's up with Mythic Games? Let's talk about that. Oh, the game. Let's talk about my feelings and emotions around 6 Siege. I think 6 Siege is one of the better skirmish games I've played. I do want to go through the actual rules and see where this final copy ended up. By the way, I'm not heavily focused on telling you the characters so much as showing you the miniatures because, like I said, I don't have that much to add to it. Like, I can tell you the names, but unless I'm reading through their abilities, I'm just kind of showing you what's here while talking about whatever. And again, highly recommend checking out Devin's video if you want more of a detailed actual breakdown. So, we have over here, we have Maestro and Alibi and Clash and Cade and Maestro again and Lion and Finca and Maverick and Nomad and all those characters over here. But basically, going back to what I was saying a second ago, what was it saying? The game, like in the game. So, I think 6 Siege was an excellent skirmish game. The two caveats I have around it, I gave it a 4 out of 5 if I'm not mistaken, and the two caveats I have around it are, one is that it was a prototype, rules were a bit fiddly, I felt some areas could be cleaned up, but I overall very much enjoyed the game. Now that it's a final game, I have to see whether those fiddly bits were cleaned up or not. And frankly, because it's Mythic, I'm less confident. I'm hopeful, but I'm less confident. Even before they had financial issues, they were always a company. These miniatures are top-notch, by the way. But yeah, even before they had financial issues, they were always a company that had issues with rules and errata and things like that in their games, which is not the end of the world, but it does make it a little optimistic. It makes me a little less optimistic that some of the issues during the prototype phase were taken care of. Especially if you combine financial issues along the way, that might give them less room to spend all that extra time cleaning things up. Now, they weren't the end of the world, nothing crazy, but it's just small areas of the rules that were a little finicky, a little more fiddly, things that I hope would be cleaned up, but I don't know how that will play out. We'll see. And again, Overwatch is a good example. I remember finding Overwatch very, very fiddly as a game concept. Now, it could have just been me. Absolutely, it's always a possibility. But hey, that's ultimately where I was in this one. So issue number 1 is that I do want to see what it actually is. As it was an incredibly intricate, very cool system that I don't yet know how clean that end result is. Issue number 2 is, like I said already, to my deepest chagrin and my own surprise, I am emotionally affected by things. And all the stuff around Mythic has made me less attached to some of their games, which I don't like. I like being one of the people who's like game first. I've always been somebody who's like, hey, if you're on Amazon and you're rating something, 2 stars because the delivery was late, like, you're not helping anyone. You're not understanding the system, and you probably should deserve to be left alone on an iceberg and cast off away from the rest of civilization. Which might sound harsh, but I don't actually mean it. I'm just saying it with a, because it's not actually real. Anyways, so for me, the idea that I'm attaching emotional angst about, not angst, but emotional factors around a company and Fallout and all those things to their games, I don't like that. I'd rather have the company here and the game here and have those two, never the twain shall meet. But they did meet. They met in a few instances. They met with, I assume Sledge is a tribute to Hell, that's what it seems like. But they met with Super Fantasy Brawl, because Super Fantasy Brawl is a game that I very much loved, one of my favorite games from Mythic Games, and it's definitely a game that went down for me. Now, I do think some of that, I absolutely do think that some of it is because of the fact that the game itself, as much as I enjoy Super Fantasy Brawl, I don't think it held up as well for me over multiple plays. The more I played it, the more I found that it was, like, all the characters felt a little samey. I didn't feel a strong sense of building the characters out. Maybe if I played it more, I could have, but, like, as it was, is a very good system I very much enjoyed. But then the second half of that is I do think that I also attach some degree of emotional importance to all the stuff that happened with Mythic Games and to all the issues they had and all the delays and like transfer of like, I don't know, it feels like I was emotionally affected. Again, it is what it is. I think it's normal, it's human. I just usually, like my Discord, speaking of Discord in the community, there's often a joke that I'm like a robot, and I'm a robot both in terms of like the things I do, the less, I don't know, personality-wise, I like being driven by facts and logic, and less so by emotional ranges. But emotional ranges are a reality that we all have to deal with, and apparently I'm affected by them as well. Now, I like to think I'm affected by all the good emotional ranges, you know. I cry with any chick flick, I love my children, all those usual good emotional ranges I think are very present. But there's a flip side between their emotionally being happy and charged and all those things versus being under the influence of emotions, particularly negative emotions. I don't like making decisions under the influence of negative emotion. I don't like making a decision out of fear, out of panic, out of worry, out of anger. Anger would be the worst one of those. So, like, I don't know. It is what it is. But anyways, that's the second factor that has me uncertain on this game. Because as much as I like the game, if you combine anything other than a great game, if this game is amazing, if it's perfect, if I play it again and like everything about it is great and it's everything I hoped it would be, that's one conversation. But if it's not, then I do think there's a part of me that would look at the things wrong with it and be like, you know what, I have too many games anyway, I'll get rid of this one. It is what it is. That is absolutely a possibility. But this is a game I will 100% be playing before getting rid of. For one main reason, which is, first of all, I have an interest in doing so, but also, because this was given to me by Devin, I very much do feel like this is not one where I'm anyway being to be casual, but like, hey, you know what, I appreciate the gift and now I'm not playing it. No, I'm going to play this game. I don't know when exactly. Maybe it'll be with Devin, very possibly, but I'm going to be playing this game for sure. It's just a question of when, and then how many plays I give it before deciding how I feel about it. And no decision's locked in. I mean, I guess if I get rid of it, that's somewhat locked in. But if I keep it, you know, that's a decision that's day by day. Every single day we'll see exactly where it goes and how it fares. As far as Mythic's other games, because Mythic still has other games, I believe currently they have Monster Apocalypse and Darkest Dungeon are still under their umbrella, so to speak. I think. Are there any others? Are there any others I'm missing? I mean, I believe they have Joan of Arc, but I'm not sure that's doing anything. So Monster Apocalypse and Darkest Dungeon are still currently going through things. Hell, the Lost Saga and Anastyr have been sold to Simon. Super Fantasy Brawl, I believe, was picked up by Monolith, if I'm not mistaken. And I was always surprised. I thought that would be a good Simon title. Maybe it was Simon. What did Monolith pick up? Monolith picked up some, and Simon picked up others. Maybe Monolith picked up Joan of Arc? I don't actually know. I don't remember. Monolith picked up some, Simon picked up others. That's the part I remember. But I do know that they still have Monster Apocalypse. Part of that might be because there's a licensing conversation at play with whoever does Monster Apocalypse, who I'm forgetting the name, but there's a company that does Monster Apocalypse, and they might be a part of the reason why that's not, you know, in talks with any other company. Although, something that we don't really talk about enough, but is absolutely present, we just don't talk about it, is even something like this has people behind the scenes. Like, we don't really get into it, but at the end of the day, the delays on this game, delays on Darkest Dungeon had Red Hook, and you know, this has Ubisoft behind the scenes and likely engaged in some way with Mythic. Like, we don't know what those conversations played out. We don't know what lawyers were involved, what lawyers weren't involved. But there are other, maybe not. Maybe they just sold the IP and moved on. But I have to imagine there are companies who are concerned about the misuse of either IPs, and there's some degree of behind-the-scenes conversations. I don't know what those conversations look like, but I just have to imagine they exist. It's an interesting conversation. Like, if you turn around and you license your product to someone else, and they are engaging with that product in a way that doesn't do you any favors, there's got to be some tools at your disposal to deal with that, right? There's got to be something you can deal with. It's probably stuff written into the contract, but you're dealing with the practical reality of just a company that doesn't have the money to follow through on things. And so no matter what, it's a messy situation that negatively affects Ubisoft's brand. And Ubisoft doesn't have the best brand to begin with, so it's like, it's not even like you have a situation where it's like, oh, the poor company that, you know, everyone loves that company and they got sucked in with Mythic. No, it's when you don't like the company already, when you already are accusing the company of any sort of, I don't know, whatever Ubisoft issues they have, when you already don't like the company because you think they're already out for your money and aren't consumer friendly, then this kind of situation, even if it's not at all their fault, tends to get lumped into, oh, it's Ubisoft wouldn't even care anyway. So it's bad press on top of bad press. Versus, again, if there's a small indie publisher, there might be more forgiveness to that kind of conversation instead. Ooh, I like Knock. Look at this. This looks fun. I like that. just the look of the character. But anyways, that's kind of a general situation as far as Ubisoft goes. So I'm very intrigued as to, well, what they're doing. There was also a whole issue. There's a whole debacle about skins in the game. One of the things that was promised to backers was exclusive skins. And this is where you have no idea who messed up. Like, you don't. They do. You don't know what's going on. But Mythic Games promised exclusive skins for the game to people who backed the game. Turns out they weren't exclusive. They were limited time exclusivity. So you kind of got them first, sort of, but then after that, anyone can get them, which wasn't really what had been promised. And we don't know whether that was a screw up on Mythic's part or a screw up on Ubisoft's part. And no one's really talking about it. The situation just happened. It is what it is. It's locked in, and that's kind of where we are. And so I genuinely don't know what happened. I don't know who messed up or not, but ultimately that was yet another mess up on top of strings of mess ups with this game. So, I don't know. We have a very good skirmish game that we're going through today. A very good skirmish game while unboxing, but also a very complicated backstory of games and companies and people and intertwined relationships, why I'm even here doing an unboxing around this game, all of that around Mythic Games, 6 Siege, the board game, and all of the organizational stuff I'm going to have to go through after to get this all in the right box, because I am going to do that. Because I'm always worried about combining boxes if I don't know if I'm keeping a game, but I'm not worried about combining boxes when I'm combining it into the beautiful, giant white box over there that's meant specifically to house all of these guys in still something nice while making it much more Calyx friendly. So there is that, at least. I mean, the production is beautiful. That's the end of the day. The art's great. The production's beautiful. So far, I have no complaints. I'm sure I will later. Like, you always find things as you go through stuff later. But at least as of right now, we just have box after box. We have year 4, year 5, Duel Runner Ups, year 3, year 2, and year 1. I did it all in complete reverse order. Sorry about that. Going through all of 6 Siege's, well, stuff. I should probably play 6 Siege. I finally got a Steam Deck for the first time. It's a temporary purchase right now, trying to get a gauge as to whether it's something I want or not. But for right now, it's something I'm experimenting with. I'm about to go on a long flight, and I figured I'd go ahead and get one, try it out, and see if it's for me. They actually just came out with the brand new OLED version, which is just the same kind of concept, but just a nicer screen. It's a Steam Deck 1.5, as it were. For those who want a Steam Deck 2, we're not there yet, but I haven't actually played the Steam Deck until, well, today. Today was my first time finally playing with the Steam Deck. Downloaded a bunch of games that I think are good for it. Games like, I don't know, we have Slay the Spire, Balatro, that Monster Hunter World. Oh, Monster Hunter World, yeah, that's right. I've been playing Horizon Forbidden West, but I downloaded Monster Hunter World to go through that. That's another company. Steamforge Games has a license for both of those. They've been dealing with those games over there, but a whole different situation. Those have been delivering and doing great. Monster Hunter World's delivering, Horizon Zero Dawn delivered, and Forbidden West is going to be coming out. So you have those IPs coming from a different company, but those have already delivered first waves with no real issues. We've seen a very big migration in video game titles constantly shifting to board games over the past few years, and they've been received, well, to various degrees. We've had some really well received ones, some mixed ones, some not so good ones. Steamforge has done a ton of them. Obviously Mythic did a few of them. We have Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era coming to you from Chip Theory. We have Stalker coming to you from Awakened Realms. Those are companies that haven't done as much IP work, and they're dabbling in it, so I've had a chance to play both those. Really enjoy both those. Definitely recommend both those. Call of Duty from Arcane Wonders is a little bit more mass market friendly in how it's done. I think it's overall a good game, but I don't think it's going to satisfy your tactical appetite as much as, well, Stalker or Elder Scrolls, which I think are very solid games, worth checking out. But what's the best? Slay the Spire? Oh my gosh, Slay the Spire, the board game, that is a good game. Like, I'm curious. I have to think that Slay the Spire, the board game, might be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, video game adaptations. But I am curious what else is out there. Like, I've played a lot of these by now. I've played a lot of these board games made into video games, or video games made into board games. And, like, it's hard to call them a cash grab because, frankly, a lot of them are good. A lot of them are very, very good. They don't feel like they're just a way to sell something. Although, I don't know. Like, I did a whole video on cash grabs and the nature of them, and I think attaching an IP to something is a good way to sell something, but most of the time you're going to want to put in that work anyway because, well, frankly, if you want a good game, if you're putting the work in, if you're spending the money, you want a good game by the end of it, because otherwise, that's just money down the drain. Now, so what's in here? Oh boy. Okay. These are upgraded tokens. I'll show you a few of these, I guess. I don't want to go through everything over here, but I'll show you like a sense of what's... Oh, these have to be opened. So these are going to be upgraded acrylic tokens, I'm guessing. Are they acrylic adjacent or they're full on acrylic? They're plastic. They're plastic tokens. These are nice. I like them. I'm not going to show you all these over here, but This is a plastic token over here. Replace the token, so you're going to replace the others with these. But they're nice. They got a little bit of a, you know, they're a little, not cardboard, they're nice. I like them. They're cool. We got a whole bag full of all these. I don't want to mess them up because I will cause a huge mess with these if I'm not careful. But all the various tokens and punch boards in just plastic tokens instead. So we'll have these over here, which again will be dealt with later. I'm going to put these back here. We have the next box, I think, is the terrain to replace the plastic terrain of the base game. I do wonder what the storage options are for it because, well, I don't know if it's supposed to go into the storage box or not. I hope it is because that would make my life a whole lot easier. What do we have in here? So, let's pull this out. Sure enough, this is indeed the plastic terrain. Are there plastic thingies? There are not. There's no tape. So, this is over here. We got some of the various plastic terrain to replace those cardboard components that you're going to be making otherwise. So we have like these over here. And I'll show you some, but not necessarily all of these. We have a couch. We have a couch over here. They are nice, I will say that. We got a pool table. It's a nice little hollow on the inside. Doesn't have as much heft as the couch, but you do need that triple-decker couch for flying after all. We have some just destroyed walls and some barricades over here. Some pillows, not pillows, sandbags. Sandbags. I don't know why I said pillows. That is the wrong approach. But these broken walls and these sandbag situations over here. We got whatever the heck this is. Are these the... What is this? Oh, this is a water. It's a water thingy. It's like a water dispenser thing. A cup. You see, there we go. There we go. You see like the cups on the side over here. It looks a little outdated. They usually look cooler nowadays, but it still works. We got a desk over here. So a lot of just general 3D terrain, plastic terrain, decent amount of detail. Again, say what you want of Mythic, their miniatures are usually pretty top notch. Like look at the laptop in this. Like look at the laptop on this desk. There's a nice level of detail to this. Oh, there we go. Can you see like the detail on those keys? I'm gonna take a close look in a second. We have like another desk over here. More stuff on this. I don't even know what's on the desk. Are those bars of gold? I can't even tell. What are they? It looks like it does look like bars of gold, lock boxes, and cash. That's what it is over there. And this over here, we have the numpad, we have the keyboard. The mouse pad's a little indented. The trackpad, a little more indented than you would typically find. I understand what they're going for, but they screwed up a drop on that. I wonder if you could, 1, 2, 3, the numpad has the right number of keys. I wonder if I counted the keyboard, if it would have the exact number of keys or not. But again, ultimately it's pretty cool. Let's see how to put it back over there. I can show you a safe over here. We'll show you 2 more pieces over here. 1 more over here, and then maybe just show you, I don't know, this over here. We got some pieces over here. Nothing crazy. I don't want to pull out every single one. There's a lot of repeat kind of stuff over here. This can be your safe on wheels. And then we have another desk. And again, detailing is pretty solid in it overall. So, that's what we have as far as these go over here, which means it's time to dive into, well, honestly, I think we're mostly done. We're mostly done with things. Let me just put this back over here. And I don't know how this goes. I think it goes like that. There we go. And again, I hope this fits into that other box. I think it does. I don't know for sure. We'll find out. And then we have boards and other things to go through. So let's see what we got. We got whatever's in this, which I don't even know what's in this. Let's take a look. Let's see what's in this over here. This is going to be dice. We got another dice set. They're not nicer dice, they're just more dice. That's nice to have. We got what I'm assuming, what I can only assume is a miniature in here. This must be like a single miniature. Nope, it's not a miniature. Oh, it's a laser pointer. I love these. These are pretty cool. So this over here, oh, I'm so excited. This is because a key part of the game does involve line of sight. And so we have our nice little laser pointers that if you look on the board, oh, does it not come with a laser? 1 second. Does it not come with a battery, I mean? Okay, this is not working, but that might be because of a lack of a battery. Let's see. Do we have a battery in here? We do not. Nope, we do. We do. But we had a thingy preventing it from... Let's see if it'll activate this way. Because now I'm invested over here. But it's not going in the right way, darn it. So we need to stack these up like so. I think we're putting them in this way. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. These aren't going in. They're like gravity's flipping them. So the question is, which way is it supposed to go? Let's try to do it that way and see what happens. Nope. That one's going in the wrong way, I think. It's going in the wrong way, I think. And then this. Let's find out. Let's find out. Because I put them in one way. No, it works. So you point to the board and you say, look at that. Look at the line of sight between two areas. I do have one of these in general, but these are a very nice way to be able to track the line of sight between, you know, location A, you have a guy shooting, you have location B, and you can just see what's your line of sight and can you see those things or not. So these are very fun. Very happy to have that. I'll drop this in the bag over here. I forgot that those in the campaign. And I'm sure you're getting a nice upcharge for the 6 Siege logo on it. But honestly, those are really nice. I have one from the Army Painter. We have some art prints, which I'll offer to someone or something, because I don't know if I need them. We have a mouse pad, which I do like not mouse pads, a dice tray. I do like dice trays, but I will say I typically like dice trays that are, well, not this type of one. This is like a much softer fabric situation, which is still a nice end result, but it's very nice as a mouse pad, I think, but that's why I said mouse pad. It's got the neoprene feel, but it's a little softer as an actual dice tray. You have this situation over here, which for me I find is a little too soft for what I'm looking for. I don't like rolling dice into like a pad that, I don't know, is flopping around a bit. But it is a very nice material, nice logo on it, and if I could just put it down basically like this and just use it as a mouse pad, that's got a nice little mouse pad situation. I like that. That we'll use over there. And I think the last thing to go over, which I don't know if I want to open these right now, but we got 2 more city maps, 6 more city maps over here. So we have 6 more maps over here. I don't think I want to mess around with opening these. Oh, do I open them? I'll open them. I'll open them. I don't know, because the problem is they come with various components. I'll open them. But these over here are giving you some new maps to deal with in the game. Although, let me see if I can get my knife into this properly. I'm worried I'm going to destroy things. There we go. But basically, going to get 6 new maps over here. 3 maps that are double-sided. That's going to be the map packs they added. I believe 2 of these, if I recall correctly, and don't quote me if I'm wrong, but if I recall correctly, 2 of these were ones that you could buy during the campaign, and one was like an apology extra content, if I recall correctly. But I could be wrong. I do think they did give extra content for the game, for backing it, and, well, frankly, having, you know, to pay extra money and all that. Let's zoom out on this. Can I zoom out further? There we go. Okay. Here we go. So we got a new map over here. That's going to be side 1. And then we have a new map over here. Now, I do like the sheer amount of map variety you have going on in this game. Lots of ways to play through it, lots of ways to experience this, without having to like build yourself a modular map that isn't necessarily as good. So I like having 8 maps for this game. You don't need that many maps. You almost certainly don't. You could have got away with a lot less content for the game and had plenty of fun with this. Or you maybe backed it and are $400 in the hole and got nothing, in which case I apologize. That's the complicated part between these videos. Like, to a certain extent, it might be viewed as good press, but I hope by the time you're walking away from this video, you don't view this as good press, because it's certainly not good press. It is a sad story about a company that bit off more than it can chew, tried to do what it could to, you know, get games to people's hands, and ultimately seems to have mostly given up on the ability to really deliver what they promised. And, like, again, people want what they paid for. That's the harsh reality. I love the color palette in this. The color palette's beautiful. But, yeah, I mean, if this was the last game they ever made, I think it's a good one to go out on. It's also a sad story, regardless. Just the fact that we're even here having this conversation. The fact that a big presence in the crowdfunding space kind of ended on a sour note. It's just sad. But at the end of the day, there are companies that fail in crowdfunding. That is how it works. Crowdfunding is you are backing an idea, which the idea of that is fine. I think people have a hard time taking that seriously when the idea has 6 campaigns a year. Not 6, but when your idea is multiple campaigns a year and constantly putting out new stuff, it starts to feel like you're supporting a company and not just an idea. And there's nothing wrong with supporting a company, but it means that people have a lot less sympathy or understanding when things go south. Because it doesn't feel like you backed some indie creator who couldn't bring your project to life. It feels like you backed someone who tried to make this into more than that and failed, but on your dime. And that's just it's less of a romantic story. It's a lot of life is about the stories we tell ourselves. A lot of life is about what we're able to convince ourselves of. I think a lot of people convince themselves to spend money on campaigns because, hey, you're helping bring a project to life. And even though you know in the back of your head there's a decent chance it'll show up at retail cheaper down the road, there's a story you tell yourself that you're helping a small creator. Very few of these people send $10 to a small creator out of the blue. So the story you tell yourself is you're helping a small creator, but you often only do so if you're getting the game. But we're trying to justify our purchases. That happens in lots of different ways. when you lose money, when something doesn't go well, there's a story we tell ourselves that, well, at least it was a small indie creator. At least that's what it was. And it's harder to tell yourself that when it's a larger established company, even though larger established companies are also just people trying their best and sometimes messing up. But there's less understanding, less leeway, and a whole lot more frustration. This has been the unboxing of 6 Siege the board game. Possibly the most chaotic unboxing I've done in a long time. I don't know if I sat still on any topic for more than 10 seconds. I briefly touched upon the fact that this is a skirmish game with a lot of tactical abilities and characters and lots of intricate, really well done play with a few fiddly rules, and a game that I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to tabling it. And the rest of this video was about basically everything else. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.